welcome again to the module of teaching and learning skills. During this module, we will be gliding together through the interesting domain of effective PowerPoint presentation skills. It is not only focused on the classroom scenario but is also helpful for the professional and research level presentations. Presentation skills are important for improving communication and creating positive learning experiences. This module will help you to acquire effective presentation skills, making your teaching learning process more engaging. So far, you may have learned about essential teaching and learning skills, including the art of lecturing. This traditional teaching usually is supported with certain teaching aids like Blackboard, various kinds of models, maps, projectors, and over and above, the most widely used, the PowerPoint presentation. The very first question that may have popped through your minds may be, do we really need these skills? Well, all of us are using these PowerPoint presentations probably over several years. Many of us may have already mastered them. Although some of us may not be expert presenter, you would probably agree that we all are expert listeners. We have digested several hours of talks sitting in the classrooms and auditoriums. Being the part of audience, we certainly have understood the qualities of a good presentation. Audience usually appreciate the presentations that are well organized, precise, attractive, interesting, and above all, well presented, keeping the audience awake. So, as an audience, we all know what makes a good presentation. We only have to blend these expectations with our own presentations. Still, unfortunately, all of us have experienced and more precisely suffered through some of the horrible slideshows containing paragraphs of text, long list of bullets, tiny and unreadable fonts, bombarded with clip arts, images and animations on a single slide. This confuses the audience what he or she is supposed to do, whether he or she should look at the diagram or read the paragraph, look at the animation or listen to the speaker. And to the worst, it is delivered by a speaker who constantly keeps on reading from the slides, thereby losing the communication thread with the audience. The contents of the presentation may be precious, but audience won't be able to understand as such bad designs drag their attention to elsewhere. Believe me, such PowerPoint presentations would certainly make the audience regret over attending the particular session or lecture. If you have unfortunately suffered through such kind of PowerPoint presentation, you would certainly respect the essence of effective PowerPoint presentation skills in any kind of presentation. An effective presentation requires proper organization of the contents and confidence of delivery. Both terms are actually relative to each other. The proper organization of contents automatically boosts the confidence of the presenter. PowerPoint is just a simple teaching aid, which, if used effectively, can leave a long lasting positive impact over the audience and help them absorbing most of the contents of your lecture. Well designed slides that use multimedia sparingly can make a brilliant presentation. Experiences have revealed that it may even make an ordinary presentation a most appreciated one. So, let's embark on the journey towards mastering the art of effective PowerPoint presentation. Now, let's introspect. Do I spend enough time for preparing my presentation? Or I just start typing or copy pasting the relevant material without bothering about the amount of the material and the flow of the material. Do my students attend consciously, or do they appear bored or lost in their own thoughts as if they are physically sitting in the class but mentally they are somewhere else? Do they interact with me through or after the presentation? Do I take feedback about my own presentation? Maybe from the audience or maybe from my own colleagues. And most important, am I satisfied with my own presentation? At the end, we all do get a feeling about our lecture or presentation. Yes, today my lecture was very good and interactive. The students seem to have enjoyed it a lot. Or we may feel like, oops, something was wrong with my lecture today. I just couldn't maintain the attention of audience. Probably it was somewhat bored. If answers to even a few of these questions are negative, you seriously have to think over these essential skills of presentation. Because a presenter who deliver a well constructed and confident presentation always get additional advantage over the others. So, let's consider certain things that we should keep in mind. The first thing is prepare the contents with proper planning. Yes, we need to plan in advance how and what contents should be covered. A sort of blueprint that will help me build my presentation. Of course, plans may be updated if needed. Only keep the key points that need to be taken on slides. For that purpose, what we have to do is review the material that we have so far collected and reduce it down into the keywords and place these keywords only on the slides. Next, we have to design the slides correctly that reflect the message of your presentation. PowerPoint offers variety of templates and themes. You should choose the one that suits the topic that you are going to discuss or explain. Next, we must use the multimedia wisely. PowerPoint also offers a huge pool of multimedia components like graphics, sounds, animations. You need to use them wisely and sparingly. Most important thing again is check for the mistakes. Mistakes are common and natural. They may surprise you during your presentation and you may have to apologize for the same if you haven't paid attention to these mistakes well in time. So, we can always use the proofing tools or even take the help from someone else. Next thing is we have to practice for perfection. The more we practice, the more it will help us to refine and fine tune our presentation. Now, all of us may have heard or read a lot about several rules about PowerPoint presentation. Something like the rule 248. It means 2 slides per minute, 4 bullets per slide and 8 words per bullet. Similarly, another rule is there, 166 rule. 1 concept per slide, 6 bullets per slide and 6 words per bullet. There are so many such rules that people have devised as per their own need. But I personally believe that these rules may be treated as guidelines but cannot be treated as the rules that has to be followed rigidly, because depending upon the situation there can be changes in these structures. So let's discuss about the guidelines for designing effective slides. We'll see the things to follow and the mistakes to avoid. The first thing that we need to know is your audience. Your entire presentation should be tailored according to the audience scope that refers to the target group whom you will be communicating with. It may be a classroom communication with undergraduate or postgraduate students, or it may probably be a professional presentation in a research conference. In each of these scenarios, The level and the structure of the presentation should definitely be different. If this understanding do not exist, then there is a little chance of the communication being effective. Every slide may optionally begin with an index slide or an outline slide. This is a simple index slide for this presentation. I have listed the points that will be covered in this particular slide. Now moving on to the most important slide, which is the title slide. This slide is the mirror of your presentation and it should be effectively represented what it contains. Books are usually judged by their cover page and so are the presentations by their title slide. And that is why this slide must be neatly designed. The slide must be designed smartly to generate the interest of the audience towards the entire presentation. The title slide may optionally be supported with some image. Although it is not compulsory, the title slide should also include some image which is relevant to the topic of presentation. This will certainly grace the slide. The title slide may optionally include the goal or objective of your presentation. It should also mention the name of the presenter and other details like the organization, email address, etc. Now let's move towards the next slide, which is the index or outline slide. We should add an index to our presentation, which is of course optional as mentioned earlier. This applies for a specific kind of presentations only, like if your presentation is being evaluated, so the evaluator would be able to know which points you are going to cover. Ideally, the index slide should be at the beginning of your presentation. Now remember, if you have used an index slide, you must follow the order which is mentioned in this index. We usually keeps on updating the presentation several times, so it is essential to be carefully examined after each update of your presentation whether we need some changes to be made in the index also. Now keep the index really small, so only main topics should be placed on the slide. The index slide may be followed by the introduction slide. We must give a brief introduction about the topic. Like for this presentation, the introduction slide may contain the following points. Remember, the slides aren't the presentation. Slides shouldn't say everything you are supposed to say. If you want so, then choose other formats like document, PDF, LaTeX, etc. The presenter and the presentation play complementary roles. Presentation skills are learned skills. They need practice. Next, we have to focus on the slide structure. The slide structure basically contain some sort of theme or design which is provided by the PowerPoint. So what we can do, either we have to select the standard theme or create our own theme. As stated earlier, several standard templates and themes are available. We have to choose the most relevant to your topic or create a new one. What is essential is that it should be in tune with the concept being presented. Stick up to the color scheme of the theme. Usually the default schemes are graceful. Changing them frequently may give an annoying look to your slides. Choose the appropriate size for the slides based on the contents to be presented. There are two sizes of the slide which are provided by the PowerPoint. We may choose between the standard 4:3 or widescreen 16:9 slide size. Now, on a slide, we should write the points and not the complete sentence. They are supposed to be spoken by the speaker. Otherwise, if you are writing everything you are going to speak, then your presence become obsolete. A slide should include minimal points, ideally 4 to 6 points per slide. This may change based on the need of the topic. Like if I am presenting a procedure that consists of 7 or 8 steps, I may prefer to keep it on a one slide only. Next, avoid cluttering. Use the keywords and phrases only. No paragraphs, please, strictly. Again, there are exceptions, like if I have to present a definition of certain topic, or I have to present a quotation, then in that case I may go for the paragraphs. But then here also, the presenter should not keep on reading the entire text. Also, we must check the other formatting options like the line spacing, the indents, and the alignments of various objects on the slide. Now, we'll look towards some bad example of a slide structure where we have presented one paragraph as a whole. I will just read it down. If the contents are presented as paragraph, it becomes difficult to read. They are written in sentence format, which are difficult to read for the presenter as well as the audience. The presenter may lose the eye contact with the audience, who are also busy reading the text. Ultimately, they will lose connectivity with the speaker and mainly the interest in your presentation. So, believe me, this is the moment where you have lost your audience. Now, we'll see what exactly can be done with the same slide. So, what I have done, I have modified the same slide with a good example how it can be presented. The contents of the earlier slide are now presented in the form of points, making neatly organized. The presenter has to simply read a single point for his reference and elaborate on that particular point. Now, as we have mentioned that the slide should not say anything and everything should be presented in the form of points. We'll see how the points has to be displayed. Let a single point appear at a time. What is the advantage of this? It prevents the audience from reading ahead. Otherwise, when I am explaining the first point, probably the audience may be busy reading the fourth point. It also helps the audience to concentrate on you, since only the current point which I am going to explain is displayed on the screen. So, naturally, they will be listening to you now. Again, the same thing will help you to keep your presentation focused. The next thing that we must remember with the slide structure is numbering the slide. It is a good practice to number your slide, although it is not essential. If you have chosen to place the use the slide numbers, then place the numbers of the current slide preferably in the footer. Put total number of slides along with the current slide number. This is especially useful when your presentation is being evaluated. So, it helps the audience or evaluator and even yourself to keep track of your presenter. The evaluator may get an idea of how much of your presentation is remaining. Now, we'll see some bad examples of slide structure. I have created one slide that explains the tricks for designing a good password. Okay. Now, I'm going to present some tips that helps you to create a good password. So, I will be going through this slide. Password should be difficult to guess for others. Choose the password that you can relate with something you always remember. Now, this will help you to recall it faster, but then it will be difficult for the others to guess. For example, WYSIWYG, and the related phrase to this word is what you see is what you get. Now see, I have tried to present this concept in a very interactive and very interesting manner. But since I have displayed all the points at a time on the screen, when probably I am explaining the first point, that is password should be difficult to guess, okay, by that time the audience may be very much focused on that WYSI WYG, that is YC big, what is that, okay, what is the related phrase and something like that. So my primary aim has been spoiled here. Whatever I am going to explain is not really worth achieved. So what we can do is we will see the next example of a same slide. So what I have done here is that I have displayed the same contents, only thing is that the points are displayed one at a time. So now when I am explaining this for the first time, only the first point will appear and I will be talking on this point. Then after elaborating on this point, the second point will appear, and then the third example, which is that WWE WANADTD. Okay. Now what I am going to do here is that I have just displayed this and I will ask the audience to go back. Okay. I will just go back and ask them to recall what was the password. Naturally the password will not be recalled because it was very much difficult. Okay. But then since I have related a particular phrase, this phrase, okay, now I will show this phrase, water water everywhere and not a drop to drink. Okay, now I have chosen the first character for a password. Here the audience will get a message about how to create the powerful passwords. Next thing to remember is avoid crowding on the slide. Lots of images and text on a single slide creates a cluttered look. So use the space effectively. Be generous to leave the enough space to be free on the slide. Map the text according to the slide background. So wherever there are some graphics or some dark points on the slide, either these points should be left alone or appropriate color of the font should be chosen. It is observed that sometimes the projection of the projector and the screen is not aligned properly. So some portion of your slide is displayed outside of the screen, or rather it is not displayed properly. So we keep giving excuses that if it was properly aligned, you would have been able to view it nicely. Also, if the slide contains text at the bottom like this, then some viewers, especially those who are sitting at the back side, won't be able to see it. So what they have to do is they have to either raise their head each time or simply they ignore the contents, which you certainly would not like to happen. So what we can do, we should keep all the text and objects within a reasonable distance from the edges of the slide, that is maintaining margins from all sides of the slide. We may say that this is the safe zone for this particular slide. Now let's talk about formatting the text. Just look at this image. What do you see? Presentation should not make the audience feel like a visit to the eye clinic. The fonts are of two types, serif font and sans serif font. Serif font includes short lines at the edges. For example, the Times New Roman and Garamond, etc. Sans serif font does not include these short lines. For example, Arial, Verdana, Tahoma, etc. On printed pages, the serif fonts are easier to read, whereas for the on-screen presentations, the sans serif fonts are easier to read. Now, does this mean that we should only use the sans serif fonts for the on-screen presentation? Naturally not. We can use the combination of these. So what we can do is use the serif fonts for special emphasis like titles or certain words or keywords where I need to give more emphasis. Now the next point is, what should be the size of the font? Are there certain rules which we must follow for designing the slides? Remember, the smallest font size used should be clearly readable from the farthest distance. It shouldn't be unnecessarily large, giving a gaudy look. Just because the enough space is there, so make the font size very large. It doesn't look really good. Use standard fonts like Times New Roman, which is a serif font, or Arial, which is a sans serif font. We may use different size fonts for main points and secondary points. This helps us to distinguish between the main and sub points. Now in this example, the font used for the secondary point is of size 20, the main point font is 24, and the title font has a 36 size. Now in this case, the fonts that I have used here is Tahoma for the points and Georgia for the title. Remember, the sizes may be different for individual fonts. Just have a look about the different font sizes. Here in this example, I have displayed the word format using different fonts but keeping the size equal to 36. You may have seen that even though the size is same, depending upon the font, the actual visual size is different. So really we are not or we should not follow a specific rule that the title should be of a particular size, the font should be of this size, and the sub point should be of a particular size. We'll move towards the next point for formatting. The small fonts make it difficult for the audience to read. So if I have used very small font, then naturally the audience will not be able to read your presentation and they will not be really interested in your presentation. Capitalize only the essential points. It is really hard to read everything in capitals. Sometimes the italicized text is also difficult to read. So do not unnecessarily make entire text as italicized. There are so many fonts which looks very nice, like the scripted fonts. Okay, although these fonts are creative, try to avoid these complicated fonts as far as possible. Now look at this diagram. There is a text associated with this. Try to read this text. Are you being able to read this text? Okay, just see what is the text. The text mentioned is oblique text is often hard to read, especially when upside down and with a small font. So as far as possible, use the horizontal text, and wherever needed, at that place only we can change the orientation of the text. Next, now if I am using the text along with some particular shape, then the size of the text should be always in proportion with the shape. Just look at this particular diagram. If you look at the left side, which is displayed in red color, you will find that the word bad is very small as compared to the size of the arrow, whereas the word box is very large as compared to the size of the box. And if you see at the right side, whatever the text is mentioned, that looks good because it is in the proportion of the size of the shapes. The next important aspect of formatting the text is the color. Presentations that use colors are able to communicate better than those that don't use colors. Now just give a look at this particular slide. I have used the space very, what you can say, generously, as we have mentioned earlier that we should be generous about the space. So I have kept some space empty. But then can I use it more effectively? Just look at the new slide. See, here what I have done, I have added one image of some different colors. Okay. Now this image has filled the remaining space. So if you look at the slide is really looking nice. Now what I have to do here is use the space effectively. effectively in the sense that even though I have got so many images, I should not be keeping the images on each and every slide unnecessarily. The image that I have used here reflect the concept that this particular slide is going to convey. So it is also displaying some sort of colors, and my slide is also talking about colors. The colors are best for representation. Just look at the diagram. Whenever we think of the color red, it asks us to stop, and the green allows us to go. So red and green, we can just consider their meanings, right? In the last example also, we have shown the images in red and green. So you may have probably found that the left hand side image is wrong and the right hand side image is correct, just by considering the colors of the images. Now there are several colors which are provided by the PowerPoint. Which color shall I use? As far as possible, use the standard colors wherever possible. Unless and until needed, then only we should go for other colors. There are several standard colors which are still available for us. Choose a font color that contrasts sharply with the background of the slide. For example, blue or black font on a white background, just like this particular slide. Now if I have chosen a particular theme, then follow the color scheme of the theme. Usually every theme has got its own color combinations. For example, a dark blue color for the title and the light blue or black color for the text, that is the remaining points. We may prefer different colors for displaying certain points or certain part of the point, but then this should be done to emphasize that point only, and use these colors cautiously and occasionally only. Avoid certain colors, especially when they are used in combination, like fluorescent colors on light background, or consistently using the red backgrounds, etc. The red backgrounds naturally doesn't give a good feel for our eyes. Now we will see the example of how badly I can design the colors. Just look at this particular slide. Using a font color that do not contrast with the background is hard to read. Using the color for decoration is distracting and annoying. Using a different color for each point is unnecessary. See, we have mentioned that the point should be distinguished, but then although they are to be distinguished, it is not really necessary to be displayed with a different color. Okay, using a different color for secondary points is also unnecessarily. We can have the same color for all points. Only thing is that wherever you feel that this point should be emphasized, there you are free to use some another color, which is again a shade of the existing colors, something like that. Now see the last point. Here the presenter has taken a lot of effort to creatively design this sentence. He has colored every letter with almost a different color. Okay, so trying to be creative can also be bad sometimes. See, for showing purpose it is okay, but then if I am using this kind of practice throughout my presentation, then it will become annoying and irritated after some time. Next, we'll move towards the lists. We have said that the presentation should not be displayed in the form of the paragraphs. It must be converted into the points. Means these points have to be some sort of order. So we can use the feature of bullets for representing these points. Type phrases, not the sentences. PowerPoint provides a wide variety of bullets. Some of them are basic, whereas we can customize our own bullets. Select the bullets that enhance your presentation, and remember, avoid using the bullets for decoration. Now the kind of list that we are going to represent are of different types. We'll see through this list. The lists are of two types, the ordered list and unordered list. We'll talk about the ordered list first. Use the numbered bullets to represent the lists with sequence or order. For example, procedure to save the fonts with your presentation. So, step 1, click on the file menu. Step 2, click on the options. Select the save option from the left hand menu. Step 4, various options to customize how the documents are saved will be displayed. Now finally the step 5, check the box with option embed fonts in the file. Now what I have done here, I have represented the procedure for saving the fonts. Now here I have chosen the numbered list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The list is such that we cannot change the order. So I cannot have the step number 5 at the step number 2. That's why it is logical to use the ordered list for this particular procedure. Next, we'll see the unordered lists. Use simple bullets to represent the lists that are not having a sequence or order. So for example, we will consider certain points to remember for presentation. The first point is images enhance the presentation. Next, colors represent the information in a better way. Next, bold text emphasizes a point and underlines indicate the hyperlinks. Now if you look at this list is not a ordered list. Even though I have changed the sequence of these points, it will be okay. There will be no harm in changing the order of this list. So in this case we can use the simple bullets, whatever the options are available. Coming to the next important point, the background. Use the backgrounds that are attractive but simple, like this one. Use the background that suits the theme of your presentation. See, I might be talking about some technological concept like data communication. So in that case, I can choose a background where there will be certain small images that will indicate the communication or the process of communication, right? And similarly for any kind of presentation. Now remember, the backgrounds like the photos are attractive, but then they are difficult for reading the overlaying text. So even though in earlier point I have mentioned that I can choose a background which is in tune with the theme of the presentation, this background should not be completely filled. Okay, there can be some portion of the slide, okay, which can consist of some images or lines or some sort of graphics or something like that. Remember, the background should be such that they will not harm the overlaying text, or in other words, it will not make it difficult to read the overlaying text. As far as possible, use the backgrounds which are light. Now what is the advantage of using the backgrounds which are light? If I am using a background which is light, it helps me, or rather it is good for us when we are taking the prints of our presentation. Okay, and backgrounds which are dark, they are usually effective for a place or auditorium which is huge in size. So dark background with light text makes it easier for the audience to read from a longer distance. Now whatever the background you have chosen, use the same background consistently throughout your presentation. Now again, is it a rule? No, depending upon the need you can change the background. Okay, so of course this may happen for certain number of times only, not frequently. Let's see the good example of how the background can be. The dark backgrounds with lighter text are really good. Dark blue with white or yellow text is a classic example, like this particular slide. Light background with dark text is also good. It's good for printing the slides or handouts, as I have mentioned earlier. Now we'll see the bad example of how the background can be. Just look at this particular slide. Are you being able to read the contents displayed over this particular slide? Probably not. Okay, so avoid the backgrounds that are distracting or difficult to read from. Always be consistent with the background that you use. Now coming to the next point, the slide transition. How the slides will change. Of course our presentations have lots of slides, maybe 30, 40, 70, 100. Okay, now the slides will be changed. How the slides are changing, that gives some sort of transition effect. Adding slide transition allows one slide to dissolve gracefully into next. This is what is expected from the transition effect. The slide should gracefully dissolve. The transition should be graceful, right? Now the PowerPoint has offered a bunch of transition effects. Several effects are there. Now what I have to do? I have to limit the number of slide transitions used. This doesn't mean that since there are so many effects, I should try each and every effect. Consider that my first slide has been gracefully dissolved by wipe effect from the second slide. The second slide has been split into the third slide. The fourth slide has been some sort of fly effect from left hand side or something like that. So what will happen? Initially the audience will appreciate that yes, something good is happening, but then since the effects are different for every slides, after some times it will become annoying. Okay, so avoid the annoying transitions. Okay, and prefer the consistent transitions. So if I have chosen a wipe kind of transition, we should stick up to that particular transition. Now let's move towards another important aspect of PowerPoint presentation, and that is lines and shapes. Just look at this particular photo. This is how we give importance to the lines in our day-to-day life. But actually the lines are also the important component of any graphic design. So let us look at certain things that we must consider while designing the diagrams. We should never use a very thin line width. Why? Because they are not clearly visible from the far distance. Once we have decided a particular width, we should consistently follow the same line width. This makes it good for the graphics. If we are showing a flow of the information or some sort of procedure, then we should always use the arrows, and in that case we must give proper attention to the line endings. So from where the flow starts at where the flow ends, again the connector at the end, that we must pay attention. Okay, just look at the good and bad example of the lines. At the left hand side the line is having a very smaller size, whereas at the right hand side the line is having a good width. So you just can view that the right hand side image is clearly visible. Sometimes the shapes are more effective than lines. Let us say that I have to show some sort of information flow or process flow. So what usually we do is we show this kind of arrow. Now if I am using an arrow, of course we have taken care that they are properly directed. So instead of this arrow, can I use this one or this one or probably this one, and even this is also good sometimes. Now there are so many such shapes which are available. Which shape I shall use? There are no such specific rules, but then considering the context in which I am using that particular shape, we should use the appropriate shapes for representing the information flow. Look at the another example of the objects. If you see at the top line, the objects are not aligned properly, whereas at the bottom side the objects are properly aligned. I have mentioned that good and bad also. Now here also these are the pointers. I could have used a simple text box along with a simple arrow. Okay, but then instead of that, what I have done, I have preferred to use some specific shapes that consist of the text along with the arrows. It simply gives a good feel to the audience. It depends upon the context again where I am using these particular objects. So in this example, the top line where the objects are not aligned, whereas the bottom line the objects are properly aligned. If you can see, there are some grid lines which are slightly visible. So we must use these grid lines for aligning the objects, even though there is a option that is provided by the PowerPoint to align the objects. So simply select all the objects and make the proper alignment as you like. The next point that we must consider here is the size of the shape should be relative to what it represents. Just look at this diagram. I have tried to represent two objects. One is duck and the second one is elephant. Now just looking at the diagram, you will feel that the size proportions are not proper because the duck and elephant are of the same size, which is not really correct. So just look at the next object. So here in this diagram you will see that the duck is shown with a smaller size, whereas the elephant is shown with a larger size. So we should always take care to represent the proper shape with proper size that it represents. Next, we will now consider about the data presentation. Data is a important part of our presentation and we need to present the data several times. Now before I start to design my slides, the first thing that I have to do is I have to find out exactly what data I have to display on the slide, because the slide is smaller, the size is limited and I cannot display entire data on the slide, and this will not really make sense to show everything, the entire data on a single slide. So what I have to do is limit the data that has to be displayed, use minimal but essential data. So for that purpose you have to analyze the data first and you have to find out which data is essential that I must project or present towards the audience. Less is effectively enough sometimes. Remember, it is not more is good always. Sometimes less is also effectively enough. I am not using the word more, but then it is enough sometimes. Again, one important point to be considered here is avoid the copy paste from Excel sheets, or at least format them properly after pasting. We will see the example of a table which is neatly designed. I have shown a simple data of yearly sales report for some 4 years and for some 4 products, where there are some figures which are indicating the sales for that particular year. Now the table has been neatly designed. It is neatly formatted with colors. For every row, again a separate color is chosen. Now if you look at the table, although I have said that for every row a separate color is used, it is not entirely separate for every row. Okay, the first row is having one color, second is slightly darker, third row is again the same as the first one, and fourth is same as the second one. So this gives a good impression and it increases the readability throughout the table. Now if you look at the table again, although it is neatly designed and the user or the audience will be able to read it properly, you will probably find that these figures are not really understood. Okay, so it becomes difficult to analyze the figures. So what I can do, the solution is use the graphs. We can also call it as charts. So use graphs rather than just numbers and words. The data in the graphs is easier to comprehend and retain than the raw data. The trends are easier to visualize in graphical form. So the audience will themselves be able to understand what the trends are there. Something like the sales have been increasing throughout the first 3 years, and in the 4th year the sale has come down drastically. So these things I need not tell the audience. Just by looking at the graph or chart, the audience will be able to analyze this part. Use appropriate type of charts, like whether I am going to use a bar graph, a line graph, pie chart, or some other kind of chart. So depending upon which data I am going to represent, I should appropriately choose between the type of the various charts. Once I have decided to use the graphs, we should take some care. Some points must be considered. Always title your graph. Okay, what that graph is going to represent, you should mention. Specify the legends and other supporting information. So what color is representing which information, and just like that. So let us see one example of a graph. So in this case, again I have displayed the similar kind of information, sales of some two product for some number of years. So if you look at the chart, you will find that the chart is neatly designed. It has got two products, so that legend is mentioned, product 1 and product 2. The access have been given the titles. The graph is also having a title, and if you look at the top edge of every bar, the values are also mentioned. So this is a good example of how the graph can be represented. There are so many other types of the charts, and depending upon your need, you can choose the appropriate one. Only thing is that it should be formatted like this. Now let us move towards the second or bad example of graph. Are you being able to understand what kind of information is shown in this graph? Probably not. Why? Let us find out what is the problem with this. There are so many minor grid lines, okay, that has complicated the chart. So avoid minor grid lines. If it is necessary, then only we should use the minor grid lines. Major grid lines are fine to identify the steps, okay. Then avoid the unreadable fonts for values and some other parts of the graph. The font, there might be several values, so by default these fonts are very smaller, so manually you have to increase the font. Maybe you have to change the colors, and like that you may have to make it bold, okay. Avoid using the illogical colors. The last chart you may have seen that the color combination is very distracting, so avoid such distracting shades. Next, don't forget to assign the proper titles for the chart, the various axes, the legends, and etc. Well, bored now? Let's take a break. Usually there is a stage in our presentation, especially if the presentations, our lecture is of a long duration, then there is a phase in our presentation where the audience gets bored, they gets distracted, and at this moment it becomes essential for taking a break. Okay, now what is the advantage of this break? It helps reducing the boredom. Now where shall I take the break? So we must choose the proper point in the presentation for break. Now traditionally what we do for a break, we take a break where the people physically go outside the classroom or maybe the auditorium, and usually what we do, we give a kind of instruction that we have to assemble back within 5 minutes or 10 minutes. How many times this has happened that the audience has really come back within 5 minutes? Naturally not. So as a presenter, what I have to do is, I want to take a break. I want to make the audience more interested towards my presentation again. I want to remove their boredom. But then I don't want them to go outside the classroom or auditorium. So for that purpose, what I can do is, I can give certain breakout activities. Now what are breakout activities? There are some breakout activities like puzzles, quizzes, etc. Now the breakout activities should be planned according to the audience scope. As I have mentioned at the very beginning, that the entire presentation is based on your audience scope. So the puzzles and quizzes can be given to the students, whereas if it is a professional presentation, naturally the puzzles and quizzes cannot be an option. So what I can do in that case? So there is another activity, and that is called as reflection point. So what I can do, I can assign certain reflection points to the audience and make them think over a particular point, take a pause, and then think over that point and then come back with their findings or reviews. Now let's discuss about the most important ingredient of any PowerPoint presentation, that is the images. The studies have revealed that we remember the very less portion of what we listen verbally, while the message retention improves drastically if the verbal communication is clubbed with the visuals. So it is proved that the images help increase the retention. So as far as possible, we should use the visuals instead of the text slides, but wherever possible and essential. Look at the image. What we have to do is, first let the image sink in first, then you can describe your message on that visual. When the image is only displayed on the screen, let the audience think over the image and analyze what the message the image might be describing, and we can of course describe over the same message that is given by that visual. The only thing that we have to do here is use the images sparingly and wisely. Now let's look at the bad example of how the images can be used. If you look at this particular slide, you will find that there are so many images which are put over that particular slide. Although the images are very nice, they looks good, they are creative, and we have shown a kind of caution message also. But remember, creativity is not substitute to the content. The creative artwork in excess can distract the audience. So we should prefer not to use the slides like this. Of course, we do not use the slides like this. This is just a representation of how bad a slide can be. Now let's discuss about another important aspect, animations and media. Animations are powerful tools to visualize and explain the complex topics. The animations simulate complex processes and designs, helping the audience to understand these processes in a better manner than the presenter can verbally describe. A good animation can improve the understanding of the learners. It makes the message stick with your audience because the visuals are always better than the verbal presentation. Use the video and audio to convey your message more effectively. Now let us discuss about certain practice which are treated as the good practice for using the animations. Use animation to draw attention of the audience. Use the animations to clarify a model or emphasize an effect. So there are certain points where we wish that the audience should specifically consider those points or focus on those points. So such points can be certainly displayed with a kind of animation. Now these animations, transitions and media should be used with sparingly and wisely, because if we are using it at a large extent, the audience will not be able to make the difference about which is a normal content and which is the content that should be given a more focus and more thought. So whenever I am using a kind of animation, we must keep in mind the target audience. Again, this is very important because the animation effects that I am using before the students of probably the undergraduate or probably the postgraduate will certainly be very much different than the effects that I will be using while presenting my contents before some professional audience in a kind of research conference. Now, what I should avoid while using the animations? There are several animation effects which are provided by the PowerPoint, like fly in, where the text flies from a certain corner of the slide, or maybe from the bottom, maybe from the top, and something like that. Then the text is split into number of parts. The text can be zoomed, it grows and shrinks, it turns, it bounces, it blinks, and lot of many effects are available. What I have to take care while using the animation is try not to use the distracting animations, otherwise the audience will be distracted with what is going to happen with the next text. Do not go overboard with the animation, do not use very fancy animations and just like that. Whenever I am using the animation for displaying the text and some other objects, we must be consistent with the animation that you use. Whenever we are displaying the point should be displayed with the default animation called as appear. The appear animation displays the text without making much of the changes with your text and slides, and it keeps the audience stick up with your presentation. They are not distracted with this kind of simple animation effect. Now let's consider this particular slide where I have used the animation word, I have displayed the animation word with some animated images just for the purpose of how creative it is, but then it is again annoying also. So if I have used such kind of animations throughout my presentation several times, even though these animations are creative, it becomes more annoying. So we should try to avoid such kind of animation effects. Let's move on to another important part of the media, and that is hyperlink. What are hyperlinks? Hyperlinks helps us to link our PowerPoint presentation with the external resources. I can assign the hyperlinks with some words, maybe some objects. When we click on those words or objects, we are actually redirected to some external resources which are linked with that object. These links may include some audio, video, some sort of documents, images, probably the applications, and several other elements. Now these links may refer to some local objects or probably some remote and web resources also. It's a good practice to check the hyperlinks for their correct targets. Otherwise, it may happen that during the presentation you may have to face some embarrassing situation where you will click on a particular hyperlink and you will be shown with a particular error like the resource is not found. Usually this happens when we prepare a presentation on a particular device like your laptop or computer and copy your presentation so to some different location on the same device or probably on some another device. So it's always a good practice to check or ensure that each hyperlink is working properly before you start your presentation. The mistakes are very common and they are also natural. Fortunately, the PowerPoint has provided a tool for checking the spelling and grammar. Let us see how effectively these tools work by following this particular example. Proof your slides for spelling mistakes, the use of repeated words, and the grammatical mistakes that you might have made. Now just consider this particular slide. I have actually made a mistake while typing the word spelling. The spelling word itself consists of a spelling mistake. In the second line, you may have observed that the word of has been repeated, and the third line consists of a grammatical mistake. Now if I have used the spell check tool, then the PowerPoint will show these spelling mistakes and the grammatical mistakes with a underline in a red color, and for grammatical mistakes usually it is in the green color. So just by looking at these words we will get the hint that there is something wrong with this particular word or with this particular sentence, and we will get an opportunity to get these errors corrected. So, I recommend you to use the built-in tools like spell check, but be careful, don't completely rely on these tools. Oops, I have made a mistake. Rather, I have made a huge mistake. You may have seen what I have written, and believe me, the spell check tool will not help you by pointing out that there is a error. Why? Because this sentence is syntactically and grammatically correct. So, it is always a good practice again to have the other people like your friends or your colleagues to proofread and review your presentation, because usually it happens that even though we are proofreading our own presentation or our own material, we usually do not notice the mistakes. So, get the help from others. There are some situations when we have to make the same presentations at different places. So, I may have prepared my original presentation that covers several concepts related to the topic that I am going to present. Now, depending upon the situation and the audience scope, of course, I may have to choose between the particular slides, that I prefer to show certain slides and I don't prefer to show certain slides. I may also change the flow of the topic or presentation. Now, for each of these situation, what I have to do is I have to modify my original presentation. Maybe I make a separate copy and then I prepare a new presentation for each of these scenario. So, is it not possible for me that I would like to show only the slides that I choose? Yes, the PowerPoint helps us with the custom slideshow option. It allows you to show only those slides that you prefer to show. This also helps us to tailor our presentations as per the audience. Okay, it also helps us to shorten the presentation for a specific purpose, and here we need not make more than one presentation. So, same presentation can be used by choosing between the selected slides. So, what I have to do is just select the slides, add them to the new show and reorder them if needed, and my custom slideshow is ready. There might be some situations where we may not need a customized slideshow. We can prefer to use the same slideshow. Only thing is that I will like some slides to be shown and some slides to be hidden. So, is it possible for me? Yes, the PowerPoint offers you an option of hiding a particular slide. So, I can hide the slides that I don't want to show during my presentation. Whatever the slides I have hidden, these slides won't appear in my presentation. But remember, we have to be careful with this. The slides which are hidden, although they are not shown, their slide numbers remain intact. So, if I have used or I have shown the slide numbers on every slide, then I may not prefer the option of hiding a slide. So, don't hide a slide if you have displayed the slide numbers, or you have to mention it. There might be certain situations when I may not be able to personally go to places and events, but then I would like my presentation to be shown at those places. So, is it possible for me to show the slides, the presentation automatically without the presenter? It should be played like a video with the voice of the presenter. Yes, this kind of option is provided by the PowerPoint in the rehearsing and setting up of the shows. What I have to do here is start the slideshow and talk along with the presentation. When I am talking along with the slide and on that particular concept, I have to note the timing for every slide. Also, I have to note and record the timing for transiting to the next slide. This sets the automatic slide transition for these timings. What I can also do with this is I can record my narration for every slide. This sets the automatic presentation with narration in my own voice and helps me to show this presentation even though I personally may not be present at that place. This also helps me to share my presentation with my students, with my colleagues and the learners. Every slide or every presentation should consist of a conclusion or summary slide. We must use an effective and a strong closing because the audience are likely to remember your last words. So I must use a conclusion slide to summarize the main points of my presentation. I should also suggest some further enhancements that are related to the topic that we have just discussed. Now, after my presentation, the audience may have some queries and doubts, and certainly they would like to interact me for getting the solutions to their queries. So, avoid ending a presentation abruptly. So, how I can do that? Every presentation should end with a simple question slide to invite your audience and encourage them to ask the questions. It's always good to provide a visual aid during the question period. So I may have to go back to the slides whatever the topic we are discussing, and for that purpose, as I have discussed earlier, we need to know our slides inside out. So we must identify where exactly that point is present on my slide. Let's now ponder over certain points that we must remember while designing the PowerPoint presentation. The first and most important point to remember is preparing a presentation always takes more time than you anticipate. So start earlier. Create the content of the presentation first and then get creative with the formatting. For example, setting the colors, assigning the animations, etc. Consider the differences between the print and on-screen presentations and accordingly create your own presentation. It is essential to use the notes to keep information about the points on slide. This helps you to get the information about the point that you are going to discuss even though you are giving this presentation after a large period of time. There is a view which is offered by the PowerPoint called as a slide sorter view, which is presented on this screen right now. If you look at the PowerPoint window, at the bottom side in the right hand corner, you can see that there are 4 different kinds of button. One of the button is the slide sorter view. The slide sorter view helps you to see multiple slides at a glance. Now what is the use of this view? This view helps us to arrange our slideshow in a proper flow. So if some points we feel that this slide should not be at this place, we can simply drag that slide and put it at the appropriate place. So we must spend some time in slide sorter view. This ensures us a smooth flow of presentation. We should know the time allotted or which is available for our presentation, and accordingly we must limit the length. Identify less important points that can be skipped if needed. So sometimes it happens that the time available for us is very less, whereas the presentation that I am having is a large presentation. So in that case it is sure that I will have to skip some of the slides. So I must be aware of which slides are less important and which slides are most important that I would not like the audience to miss out. So I must have the proper understanding of what is placed on which slide, and whenever needed I will be able to skip the less important slide. And for that purpose, the thing that is important is I should know the slides inside out. This will help you to move to appropriate slide whenever needed. It usually happens that the audience or our student ask us some question after the presentation is over, and to describe certain kind of concept, we have to go back to the appropriate slide. So if I am aware of all of my slides, then it will be easy for me to navigate to the appropriate slide. It is also important to save our fonts with our presentation. That is, the fonts that you have used in your presentation should also be saved along with the presentation. Now, why this is important? You may have seen some of the presentations where the alignments of the text is actually not proper. This happens because the font which the presenter has used while creating that or designing that slide does not match on the computer where the presentation is being made. So it is a good practice to save the fonts along with your presentation, and this option is provided in the PowerPoint option that I have mentioned in earlier slide. The next important point is keep the file size manageable. This is usually effective if you have to send the PowerPoint over the email, or maybe you have to share it with somebody. But then depending upon the contents, the file size can be adjusted. We must test our presentations on a projector. This really helps us a lot, because whatever we have designed on our presentation, usually it may change when it is actually being projected on a projector. So always test it and make the changes whenever or wherever needed. Come early and make sure that all technical setup is ready. Have a backup. Usually we should keep a hard copy with you, because we cannot imagine what may happen, what worse things may happen with your technical setup at any time. During our presentation, sometimes we want our audience to pay the attention towards me. They should listen to me and they should not look at the screen. But usually this doesn't happen. So what I can do, I can blank the screen. This can be done by pressing the key B, which makes it black, and W, it makes it white. Secondly, I can also draw on the screen during my presentation. So sometimes we need to make some changes. We need to explain certain kind of process or concept by drawing certain things. So this can also be done by the PowerPoint. For that purpose, there is a feature when you press Ctrl P, it displays the pen, and when you press Ctrl A, it sets it back to the arrow, and it can be hidden by pressing the Ctrl H. Many times it happens that we have to go back to a particular slide. We have to jump to a particular slide, and this can be done by using a number or a menu during the presentation. During our presentation, we should prefer to use the dual screen mode. It helps the presenter to look at the screen of your laptop or computer, and the audience will look at the screen. Otherwise, if the presenter is also looking at the screen, then the presenter may lose the eye contact with the audience, and naturally it will lose the communication thread. Usually we need to share our presentation with the audience. For that purpose, we can create the PDF of our PowerPoint presentation. We can also use the notes pages and handouts for helping us to share the presentation. It is usually good practice to keep the hard copy of presentation for ourselves in case something goes wrong. Use a pointer to point at the projection whenever needed. We can also use a wireless presentation pointer with a slide changer. This will help us to change the slide from wherever you are standing. You need not go to the computer and press the key or click the mouse button for moving or navigating to the next slide. We should ensure that we have turned off the screensaver and other similar features during our presentation. We must assume the possibilities of the technical problems like low disk space, viruses, etc. For that purpose, we should be prepared always to tackle with any such kind of technical problem. And remember, at the end of your presentation, you must thank the audience for their attention. So, I thank you and hope that this presentation certainly will be helpful to you for designing your presentations more effectively. Thank you.